international television and film actress Christina Chong stars in Star Trek: Strange New Worlds. A dancer since the age of 3, today she is also a singer, releasing her first EP titled Twin Flames. For the past decade and a half, Christina has been rediscovering herself in Hollywood, both personally and professionally. Through exploring rejection, adversity, and personal development, she's been writing and producing original content to orchestrate a hope.
Thank you so much, Christina Chong, for taking the time, sharing the space with me here on AwareNow. Thank you.
Oh no, thank you. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. So glad to have you here. So here, let's begin this way. Surviving and thriving in Hollywood is hard work. Committed to making a name and a place for yourself in television and film, you've succeeded and starred in Star Trek, Black Mirror, Doctor Who, Line of Duty, and so many more. I'd like to begin by talking about work ethic. And to begin this conversation, let's talk about your father. Can we start there?
So it's funny you say, oh, you succeeded, but there's still a part of me that feels like I haven't. I mean, obviously I'm aware, especially with Star Trek, and it's up front and it's there but at the same time, and that goes back to roots, I'm currently writing a project that I can't talk too much about, but it's based on my family story. It's based on my dad, actually. And I had to do a lot of research over the last few years into his history, his family, his father, who I never met, who died quite young. And when my father, whose name is Chick Chong, what a cool name, Chick Chong, when he died, he'd brought the family over from Hong Kong in the 60s. And so going from being a really respected businessman in Hong Kong, coming to the UK where there was no support for them at all, like none of them could speak English. He kind of felt, and my dad watched it, his demise essentially. And a few years after being here, he died of a stroke. And on his deathbed, my dad kind of said to himself, I'm going to do what you couldn't do. I'm going to live out what you should have been able to live out had you not been forced to flee from your country and come to the UK. And so my dad's mentality, as well, also, that comes culturally with Chinese work ethic. It's like, we work, we do until we drop down, kind of thing. And that comes from the Cultural Revolution, the Mao Zedong era. And so that's embedded in generational trauma. And so I realized, I connected the dots. My dad was trying to make his dad's life mean something. And therefore he passed on to me the pressure, unknowingly, the pressure of, I have to prove myself. I have to do this for my dad. Because in some ways I feel like my dad didn't fulfill his promise to his dad. He felt, I think, a failure, although not necessarily on the outside looking in, but I know deep down he probably feels like he didn't succeed. It passed on to me. From a kid, I was constantly trying to prove myself, working hard. And it was only kind of sitting down and having to really look at why these blocks in my career back in the day kept repeating. I kept getting the same pattern. I would get down to the last two, or I would get down to, I would get a job, but it wouldn't be the lead. It would be like a small character, or, I wasn't getting to the place I thought I should have been getting to after all these years. I was like, why is it not working? And going back and realizing that actually, although that is a great mentality, and his slogan was, if you work hard, you can do anything. And so I had that in my mind. So I was like, okay, I've got to work hard. But then actually I learned probably only in the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, and not all in one go, kind of like slowly unpeeling the layers, that actually, yes, but there's a fine line between working hard and trying to prove yourself. It's what is the difference between, yes, I need to work hard, but you can't work hard to get something. You have to work hard for the joy of it and the passion of it. And also then researching my show, I realized that that's what I was doing for my dad, for his dad, essentially for my granddad, who I'd never met. And that really helped as well unlock a lot of things for me. And yeah, so although I have that built in me, I now know how to kind of harness that and not feeling, although I do catch myself sometimes trying to maybe prove myself in certain areas. I mean, I think it's quite normal, but the majority of the time I kind of have a handle on it now.
It's really fascinating how you talked about the fact that there is an element of the work ethic being sustained, or almost even a byproduct of generational trauma. And then to recognize it for what it is, and then redirect with the intentionality behind it, right? Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. But here's the thing, we can't talk about dad without talking about mom. So when it comes to work ethic, that's required, of course, to bring home a paycheck, to keep the lights on, but it's also required to bring up kids. 6 children your mom brought up in government housing and in welfare. Your mother not only supported you and your brothers and sisters, but she supported your dreams. My question for you now, Christina, is how did her faith in you help you find success in the arts?
That I get quite emotional when you say that, actually, because I had a conversation, I think was it last year or the end of last year, I had a bit of a cry with my mum, because I said to her, you made this all possible, Mum, and I thanked her, because I was like, I couldn't have done it without her. Obviously there were so many people involved, and it takes an absolute village to get here, but I, as a kid, just remember watching my mum, like she'd take me almost, I think it was, did I go to dance classes like at least 3 or 4 times a week? She would drive me in her little beat up Ford Fiesta car and wait for me with the other kids in the back, wait for me outside. We were all eating like sandwiches, banana sandwiches, or what else did we used to have? Like chicken and coleslaw sandwiches, in a French baguette in the car. We'd have our dinner in the car while she was waiting for me to do my dance class or whatever, then drive half an hour home. So it wasn't just my mum, it was my whole family. My brothers and sisters had to, go through a lot as well in order to support me. Like you say, as a byproduct, my mum was doing this, but it meant that then maybe certain other siblings couldn't necessarily do. And I do feel guilt in that, in some ways, that, my mum did spend a lot of time with me. But she, again, they both had the same stance. If you work hard, you can do anything. So that was my inner voice. If I just work hard, I can do anything. And then, having the softer side of her, and when I got too stressed, she was there for the hugs and the helping me sew my dance costumes and just believing me. She actually told me when I was a baby, she said to my dad, Christina's going to be famous. When I was a baby, she just had this feeling. She was like, Christina's going to be famous. And he was like, no, he didn't believe her. And she revels in that, she was like, I was right, you see, I knew it from the beginning. You were a baby. And so she was never a pushy mum either. I was the one who led. I was the one who pushed her to allow me to do things. She just had to find a way to make it work. Like the biggest challenge she had, as well as obviously the day-to-day and the emotional energy and, you know, finding the time. I got into a performing arts school at the age of 14, and the fees were, you know, astronomical compared to what we were, you know, had coming in as a family. And she found a way. She built this like little portfolio folder of all the awards I'd ever won, all the newspaper clippings of me with my awards, and sent it off to local businesses in the area, in this little village. And we had 2 weeks to find the money to get me to this school. And she did it. She found a company that would sponsor me to go to this school. And then we all had to move from up north, the north of England, to London, in order for me to go to the school. So that's how I feel like my siblings, you know, they were uprooted, they came out of school and they had to move schools so that I could go to this performing arts, which is kind of like a Juilliard type of school.
My goodness, so much. And then to say that it was a whole like family affair, that everyone played into the reality that's become. So beyond our parents and what they give us, there's a lot that we get on our own along the way in life. One of those is adversity. It's a blessing, often disguised as a curse. Christina, can you share a personal story about adversity in your life that started out as a curse, but then became a blessing?
Yeah, so I was bullied as a kid for being Chinese. And this, in a sentence on its own, my curse was being Chinese. Sounds awful. But at the time, you know, it felt like that because I felt ashamed. I was bullied practically every day. And, you know, your name's called out, Christina Chong. It's a reminder for everybody that I am Chinese. And then, you know, I'd be stood in assembly with kids like pulling their eyes out while I'm showcasing my artwork or whatever. And I was made to feel like I wasn't good enough. Like I really felt less than. And when my dad would come and pick me up from school, I'd really dread it, because the next day I knew the bullying would get worse because they'd see him, and then they were doing that even when in front of him, you know, as we walked through the school playground. And so that at that time, you know, schooling years. And then when I went to Allié, which is the performing arts school, that was the first place where I felt welcomed, and I felt like I could be an equal. People welcomed me with open arms. There was lots of different ethnicities there and cultures. And I remember a singing teacher, I don't remember his name, but I remember him saying to me in a singing class, there was a group of us, probably like 20 of us in the class, and he was talking about, you know, people who will get work when we leave. And he pointed to me and he was like, you're going to get a lot of work because you have Chinese heritage. And I remember thinking at the time, really? Because that's not, I don't feel like, I think, because, you know, at that, especially in that era, it was more about Caucasian actors and actresses being leads. There wasn't much of the diversity out there, especially in the UK. And so I really thought, no, that can't be right. And then it turned out to be right. Like years later, I was like, wow, the world's changed. It still needs changing more, but it's now a blessing. And obviously I've learned to accept it and love it. And now it's a part of me. And it's about self-love essentially, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so now that thing that I thought was a curse is probably one of the things that I'm most proud of, being a part of my Chinese, culture, involving myself in it more, and also now writing this TV show, which as well has helped me learn more about it. enable me to embrace it more as well.
Wow. That's, thank you so much for sharing. So just as adversity is unavoidable, rejection is as well. Now, as an actor, it's an integral part of the profession. How do you deal with it, though, Christina? How do you find a win amidst a loss?
So for me, I have been working with a life coach because I struggled with that. I really did. At the beginning of my career, I took it personally. And it was only probably 2010, 2011, I started working with him. And I still work with him now. Michael James, his name is. And he bases his work on the law of attraction and creating a positive mindset. So one of his exercises that I do now regularly, whenever I'm feeling anxious or frustrated or stressed about something, upset, I literally write out a list, good things about not getting the job, for example, right? Which would be the rejection. Well, okay. First of all, you write about the feeling behind it. So good things about feeling upset, frustrated, and well, everyone feels that. It's a normal feeling. Who says that feeling is a bad feeling? It's an opportunity to embrace that feeling. It's a bad feeling because we call it a bad feeling, right? But if you just embrace it, it dissipates. It's an opportunity to evolve and grow past this. And then once you're okay and accepting of the feeling, you then go into the second exercise, which is good things about the actual situation. What's the good things about not getting the job? Well, I wasn't supposed to get the job because I didn't. Maybe there's something better around the corner, gives me more time to do X, Y, Z. And rather than just thinking about it, the writing actually makes it go in, however many times more, because you're thinking it, you're writing it, you're seeing the writing, and you're reading the writing. So it's like it goes in 4 more times. So now that's how I deal with it. And also something that my gran used to tell me, what will be, will be. And giving it up to it's almost like giving it up to a higher power as well. Like, so I believe there's, whether that's your higher self, the universe, God, angels, whatever you want to call it, I do believe there's a universal energy that's more than us. And by giving up whatever it is that you feel like you should get or want or need or desire, giving it up to that energy, this or something better, really helps me as well, because I genuinely believe there's a unique divine path for all of us. When we look at other people and we compare because we think we want that thing, that I don't believe anybody else's path will make us genuinely happy. Our unique divine path is the only path that will make us happy. And that is revealed in the right time, as and when. Well,
thank you for sharing how you personally deal with rejection. I feel like the fact that you said the multiple touch points, right? To say it, to write it, to then read it, how that just helps us to work through it. And again, to your point, that things happen for a reason, but things don't happen for a reason. And that divine path that we can't deter from, even if we try, we can't. Yeah. So might as well just be on for the ride. So I want to switch gears a little bit. I want to talk about flames, twin flames to be exact. So an intense soul connection with someone thought to be a person's other half, sometimes called a mirror soul, a twin flame relationship. Let's talk about that. Can be both challenging and healing at the same time. When it comes to music, your music, Twin Flame is the title of your debut EP.
Yeah.
And the name of one of the 4 original songs that is amazing. I'd love to hear the story behind the song.
So I met my twin flame, I think it was in 2016. And it was one of those like instant in an acting class. And we'd been put together in this scene, which was a romantic scene. It was a scene from Blue Jasmine where Sally Hawkins, and I forget the actor's name, but it's the character's name is Chili. Sally Hawkins and Chili, and it's kind of like a makeup scene. You know, they've broken up and they're coming back together, and it's kind of like a seduction, flirty scene. Anyway, so I'd been put together with him, and I saw him for the first time, and I'd been out of a relationship for almost a year at that point, and I was so happy to be single. I was in that place where I didn't want a relationship. I was very happy with my group of friends and what I was doing with my life. And then I saw him, and it was an instant like, whoa, shut that down, whatever that was. That right down. And so anyway, in the scene we had to kiss, and with the technique that I do, the Chubbuck technique, you kind of have to do it, otherwise that's the whole point, right? You actually need to kiss, otherwise it's going to break the whole scene. It's not going to make sense. But I kind of kept that bit. I was like, let's just do that on the day. We'll just figure that out on the day, you know. Anyway, the night before the scene, I was like, hang on a minute, that's not going to make sense. That's going to pull us right out of the scene. We're supposed to have been lovers for years, and it's just going to be really awkward doing that for the first time. Anyway, so I said to him, let's maybe rehearse it the day just before class. And he was like, okay, yeah, I'll come to yours. So he came to mine, and we kind of both sat there, and I was like, so awkward, like, how do we kind of do this? What do we do? And he's like, can I try something? And I was like, what? And he just came to me and kissed me, and I was like, something, it was like a zip. I felt a physical zip opening inside, and it was like shoo, and I could not shut it down after that. I was like, what was that? Anyway, we started kind of dating, and it very quickly became a thing. And I'd been to a psychic, and I look back, and she'd actually predicted him very precisely. She'd said things which just, there's no way it could not have been him, you know. And I thought it was way ahead in the future, but it had come in quicker. I was having now, because it was an amazing, intense, passionate connection, but then I was also having extreme abandonment issues within the relationship. Fear, you know, because and that's kind of what twin flames is about, right? You can have this passionate, incredible relationship, but the stronger it is, the more passionate it is, the more you have to lose. So you're kind of like walking the tightrope between keeping the passion alive and losing it forever because of the fear of something so amazing burning out. And anyway, so she said, you guys have been in several lifetimes together. The last lifetime was in the 1800s, and you were both in a little village town in Sicily. And I was like, oh, okay. And she said, well, I think it will help me, if you go to Sicily together. I think it will be very healing for you. So obviously I get home, book Sicily. And I'm like, we got to go to Sicily. And we arrive in Sicily in this tiny little fishing village. And I was like, okay, well, nothing's really happening. I mean, what's supposed to happen? I don't know. We go to sleep that night, and I wake up in the middle of the night in this hotel room, and the panic, fear, I couldn't breathe. I thought I was going to die. Had this panic attack, which was, you know, when you get really upset and you can't breathe and you're like, yeah. It was like that. But I genuinely thought I was going to die that night. I got out of the room. I sat, and he was still asleep. I got and went out onto the balcony, and I was literally looking out going, there's nobody here. This is where I die. Like, how am I don't have my phone. I can't go back in that room to get my phone. I couldn't. I was like, in any minute, I'm going to lose the ability to breathe. And so eventually he came out and was like, what's wrong? I was like, I couldn't talk. Anyway, he was there, and just him being there I was like, okay, I'm a bit safer now. And I managed to get my mind back and settle my breath, but I couldn't go back in the room. He made a little bed for us outside on the balcony. And all I can think was trauma coming out from, because she said when we were in the 1800s together, he left for some political reason, but he was always supposed to come back, but he died at a distance and never returned. So I was sat waiting for him to come back, and I felt this huge abandonment, and I didn't know why. And so it was like my body was replaying that emotion, which was the weirdest thing ever. So that's kind of referenced in the song. Yeah, it's about the beginning of a twin flame relationship. And then it kind of, the whole EP is about that relationship, really. It's the meeting of the passion, the love. The second song is then about the breakup. The third song is about the healing. And the fourth song is about being on the other side of it. Like kind of like rebirth of myself, kind of.
Wow. Okay. So I wish, I mean, you can't see, I have goosebumps on my legs still from that story that you just shared. That is so wild. It must have meant so much to be able to pour that experience into a song that you could then share.
It was very cathartic, because I don't think, if we hadn't have broken up, I don't think I would have done this whole singing thing, because I wouldn't have had the need to kind of express from my authentic place. And although it's always something I'd wanted to do, I genuinely believe we were supposed to break. We weren't supposed to be together, but this was what came from it, And like they say, twin flames, it's not often that they can stay together, but they help each other grow and evolve. And this is a huge thing that he helped me, Wow.
Let's end our conversation this way with a bit of advice, perhaps, for those who dare to dream, as you have, but who don't pursue that dream because they're afraid of being burned. What advice do you have for that, Christina?
So the first thing that comes to my head is something my dad told me. You've got to be prepared to lose if you want to win. That really stuck with me. A poker game, a love situation, work. You've got to be in it, and you've got to be willing to not get it in order to get it. And I think it's that thing of non-attachment, right? If you're attached to the outcome or the expectation of what it will be, you're too needy, you're grabbing, you're holding onto it, if you grab, somebody was saying, if you just hold sand like that in your palm without squashing it, just let it be whatever it's supposed to be. But if you squeeze like that, hold it, the sand goes through your fingers.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that really helped me kind of, I think that was to do with love that specific time, I think. Or was it, I think it's work as well, actually. Work as well. And it really helped me in a way of my actual acting, because I now, before a scene, go, do you know what? This could be really shit. Sorry, excuse my French. I could really mess this up. And so what? Because if I want a really good performance, I've got to be prepared for it to be really rubbish as well. So, and that place of freedom, I think love and creation comes from love, right? So I think you can only really create from a place of love and needing something, pushing for something, trying to prove something, comes from a place of fear. I think if you just love and be in the moment, that's where the creation comes from. That's where things can grow and build, I think.
Well, I'm in love with this moment and in this conversation. My goodness. Christina, thank you so much for sharing your story, for sharing your music, for sharing your advice, for helping all of us just become a bit more aware now. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So lovely to talk to you. This is Christina Chong, and this is AwareNow.